Aloha and welcome back to Live at the Legislature for our weekly Senate segment. I'm the Senate Communications Director, Jesse Broder Van Dyke, and our guest this week is Senator Stanley Chang, who represents Hawaii Kai all the way to Diamond Head. Thanks for being here this week, Senator Chang.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
Today you've got an important hearing and decision-making meeting about the housing package, which is in the joint legislative package, which they spoke about a little bit in the last segment. Can you tell us about what's going on today?
Yeah, so the House and the Senate have been working on this extremely ambitious package over the last 4 months or so. We've gotten to the point where we have language because of some of the innovative ideas, because we're breaking the mold on some of the issues. You know, the language is not perfect, so we've made some pretty extensive amendments and we're still talking about them, and this afternoon we'll have a chance to present them. So we want to really address one of the critical issues of affordability. I don't think that housing that's affordable to folks at 140% of AMI, families that are making over $168,000 a year for a family of four, and a unit that costs $867,000, I don't think that's going to be affordable to anyone, which is why I believe that we need to lower those numbers, or at least provide some standard so that real working people have a chance. That's just one of the many amendments we'll be looking at.
So you and the other committee chairs and the House and Senate leadership worked on this package of bills over the recess, and I understand this is the first time maybe in a couple decades that the governor and both houses have been on board. And last year there was a number of measures that ended up dying because the two chambers didn't come to an agreement. Can you tell us a little bit about this effort and how this all came together?
So I've only been in the Senate since 2016, but this is certainly the first time that I've seen high-level meetings between the House and the Senate, even before session started. And just to talk about the housing aspect, Senator Schatz, United States Senator Schatz, was actually very active in convening the state level, the county levels, both the legislative and executive branches, to come together and really bring forward all the ideas that we had to end the housing shortage, to move the needle in a politically realistic way. And so while not everyone's idea made it, and certainly not all of my ideas are in the package, I think it's really quite a departure from precedent that we are all actually, talking and actually hashing out these tough issues instead of waiting till the very end of session in conference.
And this was inspired by the reality that it's very difficult for local families to remain in Hawaii. And in fact, we've had population decline in recent years because it's so difficult for people to own a home and make ends meet. So tell us a little bit about how this package is going to help people in those situations.
Yeah. Well, I think the centerpiece of the package is the 99-year lease idea. If you've heard in the paper or in the news over the last couple of years, we've been talking a lot about the Singapore model of public housing, and that entails the state building condos on state-owned lands near rail stations, selling 99-year leases on them at a very low price, maybe as low as $300,000 a piece, to Hawaii residents who would be owner-occupants and own no other real property, with a number of other conditions. But in this nation of Singapore, we have 82% of the population living in public housing. It's clean, it's well maintained, and it sells for only $180,000 for a brand new unit. And it's a great model for us, and we're hoping to adopt some of the elements that we can, understanding that, of course, Hawaii is a very different place from Singapore. But I think it's a model that we really need to embark on, because it's one of the very few in the world that has actually ended a housing shortage.
So explain to me how the 99-year lease works versus the state just selling the land fee simple.
So it's very difficult for the state to sell the fee simple interest in lands, and we certainly are not advocating for that. But what a 99-year lease does is it takes you to the end of your natural life. You can buy that unit with the confidence that you will never have to move again before you die, that the landlord will never sell the house or will never raise the rent in an unreasonable way. And that's security. And that's what I think people are really looking for when they're looking to buy a property.
Shifting subjects a little bit to your district, I know you recently sent home a mailer to all of your constituents asking them what issues are affecting their community, and what was the result of that?
So speaking of housing, Jesse, the number one issue overwhelmingly by a 2-to-1 margin was homelessness. And people don't typically think of East Honolulu as a real hotspot for homelessness, but the reality is, I live in Waialaikahala and I see homeless people every single day. And that's true in Hawaii Kai, that's true in Diamond Head, where there's a long-time homeless population. And we all are deeply impacted by it. And that's why I think injecting a huge amount of affordable housing inventory into Hawaii is really the single most important priority that we have as a state.
It seems like every year, the state and the city have done so much to help homeless individuals, but every year there are more, and it really comes down to the housing shortage.
Yeah, the median home price on Oahu is well over $800,000 at this point. I met a homeless family recently in Kapiolani Park. They were living in their van, mom and a dad and a 9-year-old daughter. Both parents worked. Actually, the dad worked 2 jobs, and they just couldn't make rent, the minimum wage being what it is. And that's the reality of living in Hawaii today. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, Jesse, because the real crisis, in my opinion, is all the people you don't see on the streets. Our young people, our future generations who have moved to the mainland or overseas because they just can't make it here in Hawaii.
Or they're living multiple generations in a single home.
Exactly.
Your district stretches all the way from Hawaii Kai to Diamond Head, and inside of your district was the terrible incident that happened a few weeks ago on Hibiscus Drive, where we lost 2 police officers, where the suspect was a mentally ill individual who had been contacted a number of times but refused to get treatment. That seems to be a big problem, where individuals who refuse treatment continue to cause problems to their community and themselves. What can we do about that problem?
Yeah, that's a really tough issue, and it's not easy because, people who refuse to receive treatment in this country, we have freedom, and it's very difficult for the government to compel people to receive treatment. I'm really encouraged that there are a number of bills that are on the table this session. Last year, there was a community-assisted treatment program for a lot of our homeless individuals. Another one of the initiatives that I'm really excited about this session is to increase the number of therapists and psychologists at the University of Hawaii campuses. In this age of mass shootings, of suicides, I think it's really important that our young people who may have mental health issues have access in a really easy and ready way to mental health therapists.
Well, thank you for that, and it's an effort I know a lot of people in the legislature and our community are working on.
Thank you so much.
So this afternoon you have your hearing and decision-making in your housing committee. That's going to be this afternoon. It's going to be live on Alelo. People can tune in. And any further information about that hearing?
Yeah, so we'll be doing our decision-making not only on that joint package bill, but we'll also be doing our Aloha Homes package, which is a very fleshed out, comprehensive package. I tell people Aloha Homes are affordable housing plan based on the Singapore model. It's not like a fruit salad where you just pick the mangoes and the kiwis and the cherries and then leave the rest, or your favorites. It's like a Jenga tower. You remove one element and the whole tower could come crashing down. And we don't know what that element is, but hopefully it will serve as a guide to the agencies and to the state as we roll out a really well thought out affordable housing plan.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, and good luck with your hearing and decision making this afternoon. And this episode will replay this Wednesday at 7 p.m. and we'll be back here next week, Tuesday morning, for another episode of Live at the Legislature. Thanks so much, Senator Chang. Thank you for watching.
you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record live at the Legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.